Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening? What's shaking? What's doing? Welcome. The day today is Wednesday, February the 19th, 2025, 7:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. And this is episode 315 of McRae Live. We've done 315 of these bad boys. Some have been good. Some have been probably not so good. 315 of them, they can't all be the Shawshank Redemption. You know what I'm talking about? This should be a good one. Battle of the fan favorites. Halloween 2, 1981. Halloween 4, 1988. Halloween H20, 1998. The battle of the fan favorites. These are generally, you could even say really 4 and H20, but I'm throwing 2 in there as well. Battle of the fan favorites. Which ones do you like the most? Which are your favorite openings? Which are your favorite endings? Which have your favorite themes? Which have your favorite characters? Which do you think is the better story? Which do you think is the better continuation? This is your opportunity to talk to me about it tonight. Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. There's a poll in the chat right now. The poll is, which one is your favorite? Halloween 2, Halloween 4, H20. Listen, 84 of you have voted. 55%. 55% say Halloween 2, 1981. 33% say Halloween 4. And only 14% say Halloween H20. That surprises me. Listen, don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me what you really believe. Own up to it. Do not be afraid to express your true opinions. That's what it's all about. If you love Halloween H20, you tell me you love Halloween H20. Thought H20 would be doing better, but maybe it depends on how you phrase the question. I don't know. Welcome everybody to episode 315 of McRae Live. Let's start this. The battle of the fan favorites. Halloween 2, Halloween 4, and Halloween H20. Let's go over to the other screen first. Let's check out Box Office Mojo. Let's check out Box Office Mojo and see what the box office totals were at the time of their releases for these 3 movies. Okay, we go to the screen. We've got Halloween 2, 1981, grossed a total of $25,533,818. $25 million bucks. Obviously did not gross as much as the original Halloween did over the course. Now, don't forget, the original Halloween didn't gross, what was it? 70 million, 50 something like, I don't know. It did not gross that much over the course of just, it took a bit. And also movies back in those days, especially indie movies, were in theaters a lot longer. I mean, I don't think it was until 79. I mean, the original Halloween was released in October of 1978, but I stand to be corrected on this, but I believe that article in the Village Voice, I think it was, that Carpenter always, refers to as the good review that kind of started the word of mouth. I don't think that was until 79. And so, back in those days, movies stayed in theaters longer. They opened in smaller markets. There was like this insidious kind of, evolution. So it's not like Halloween made became the highest grossing independent movie of all time, horror movie of all time in a month. That didn't happen. It was an insidious journey. Nonetheless, Halloween 2, 1981, my favorite sequel of the franchise. Still to this day, my favorite sequel of the franchise, $25 million bucks, 25 million shekels at the box office. I did a quick calculation. I think I did this right, but you guys can fact check me if I am completely off on this. But I did a quick calculation for inflation, which, that's 25 million bucks today, for today's money is about 90 million. It's close to 90 million shekels, I believe. But somebody can fact check me on that and make sure I'm on the right track, or maybe I'm completely off. But I think I did the calculation correctly. Let's go to the next one. Halloween H20. It was supposed to be. Hang on a sec. Supposed to be, maybe I did them backwards. That one, Halloween 2. There we go. There's Halloween 4. There's Halloween 4. Ah, fuck it. Let's go. Wow, that would do. Halloween 4, 17 million. 17 million. Did the calculation on this one as well for inflation. I believe it was about 45, 50 million bucks. Something like that if you adjust it for inflation. But if we start adjusting everything for inflation, it's, it kind of feels like cheating a little bit, even though, Nonetheless, 17 million bucks. Very successful. Not as successful as, but it was more successful than I think they had anticipated, any right being, especially at that time in 1988 when the slasher subgenre, the trajectory was on its way down. This was the return of Michael Myers. Michael Myers was literally non-existent in the 80s. I know there are people that may have not grown up in the 80s and they think that Michael Myers is an 80s icon. And look, for all intents and purposes, we can throw Michael on the list, but he's really just on the list because of who he is. He was virtually non-existent in the 80s. He was there in 81. Yes, he was there in 81. And then he wasn't there in 82 or 83 or 84 or 85 or 86 or 87. There was 6 years he wasn't there. And then in 1989, it was a total disaster with Halloween 5. So, and by that time, the slasher subgenre, it was already on its way down. So, when the heyday was really, things were really heating up, Michael, he was dead. Nonetheless, 1988, 17 million bucks. Mustafa Khan, oh, this is great. Yes, let's make another one. They did, and that's what happened. But nonetheless, a fan favorite, 17 million shekels. On to Halloween H20. 55 million shekels. Adjusted for inflation, I believe this is about $110 million, something like that. I think, again, I can be fact-checked, but I think it was somewhere around there. But nonetheless, this was a huge box office hit. This was a big hit in 1988. This was the return of Michael Myers after the total disaster of Halloween 5 and Halloween 6. And Michael was back. Jamie Lee Curtis, she had nothing else going on. No, she, well, maybe, I don't know. But she was like, hey, it's been 20 years. Let's do it. John Carpenter. They wanted to get Carpenter back to do it. And he asked, I think he asked for something like 10 million bucks. And they were like, no. And so they went off to Steve Miner. And Steve Miner, of course, director of Friday the 13th Part 2, director of Friday the 13th Part 3, director of House. One of my favorites. I think he directed that, right? Yeah, I think he did. I love that movie. Love House. The first House. Fantastic. And so here you have it. Halloween H20. Right on the heels of Scream. This, of course, has a very Scream, Dawson's Creek vibe. It is what it is. That's how I've always felt. And it's one of my least favorite in the franchise. But I do know a lot of people really do like this movie, and all the power to you. I think that's great. If you love the movie, own it. You love it. I think that's great. All the power to you. It does not bother me that you like it, so it should not bother you that I particularly don't. I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst of the series or anything like that. But I don't think it's held up well. Let's just put it that way. I think it's a little dated now. And I wasn't a big fan of it when it came out anyway. But nonetheless, that's the box office. Let's go over to the Rotten Tomatoes scores. Oh, here we are. Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes. 33% from the critics. 63% from the audience. I think a lot of this is in retrospect. I think this has gained some love over the years. But still only 33% from the Rotten Tomatoes. Tomato, potato, envelope, scheduled. What do you say? I mean, what is it? Is it tomato, potato? Who the hell says potato? Envelope or envelope? Ooh, envelope or envelope? Envelope. Scheduled. Scheduled is so pretentious. Anyway, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it depends on where you are. Nonetheless, 33 and 63 there for Halloween 2. Halloween 4, we got 39 and 54. 39 and 54. So a little bit better on the critics score. Not much, though. And about 10 points, 9 points less on the audience score. This is... according to the majority, actually 54% is a majority. The majority of the audience that have voted have liked it, but only 39% of the critics do. Let's go over to Halloween H20. This might surprise you. Ooh, Ooh, 56% for your beloved H2O. 49% on the audience score. Does that surprise some of you? It's kind of surprising in a lot of ways. Don't you think it's a little surprising? I think it's a little surprising. I thought that would have been higher. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting, when I looked this up, I was expecting to see... I'm not surprised really on the critic score, but I thought it might be a bit higher, maybe in the 60s. But I was expecting to see the audience score in the 70s. I'm surprised it's that low at 49%. But it is. That's just the way it is. IMDb scores. Now, of course, you can't really... These scores, though, you can trust a little... You can't really trust anything with IMDb, but usually these early Halloween films don't have a ton of people review bombing them. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody really cares about these movies, right? The scores you really got to pay attention to are the, you know, the... like the rabid Marvel, DC, Disney... Like you really got to, you know, take those scores on IMDb with a massive grain of salt. Nobody's going to H2O and review bombing. Fucking H2O, god damn it, I'm going to create 755 accounts and give it all to one. You know, like, I mean, maybe somebody is. I don't know. But so I think these are maybe a little more genuine than, say, you know, your most recent Marvel movie or something like that. But nonetheless, here we are. Oh, let me make some adjustments here. This is Halloween 2, and it's 6.5 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10 out of 106,000 votes. 6.5 out of 10. That's good. Good. There's nothing wrong with that. Halloween 4, we've got 5.8 out of 10 out of 61,000 votes. 61,000 votes. Halloween 4, 5.8 out of 10. And then for Halloween H2O, we've got 5. Is that 5 point? Is it the same score? It's the same score. The same score, 5.8 out of 10 with 85,000 votes. 85,000 votes, 5.8 out of 10. So as you can see, they're all kind of pretty much in the same ballpark category. When you look at, you know, the box office, well, the box office, there's the biggest discrepancy with the box office, right? Because obviously they came out at different times, you know, inflation, all that kind of stuff. Even inflation and ticket prices, even between 81 and 98, they've gone up, right? So, you know, you have to take that into consideration. But, you know, when you get to the Rotten Tomatoes scores and the audience and the critics, and you get to the IMDb scores, they're pretty consistent. Like, they're pretty in and around the same. I am surprised, though, that Halloween H2O... Now, I don't feel this way. I don't think Halloween H2O is, you know... Because, again, I've said this before, it bears repeating. I'm going to say it again. It bears repeating. Halloween H2O, I understand why it's a lot of people's either favorite or fan favorite. I totally get it. When Halloween H2O came out, I was 19. So I was already, you know, older. Not old. I mean, I was nearly 20. And so it was not the first Halloween movie I'd ever seen. It wasn't my introduction to horror. It wasn't my introduction to Halloween. But for a lot of people, a lot of you Halloween fans, H2O was either the first Halloween movie you ever saw, or it was the first Halloween movie you ever saw in the movie theater. And so it got you into the series, which then in retrospect made you go back and, you know, look at all the others. And so I understand that there's a nostalgic for it. There's a feeling for it. I totally get it. I totally understand it. But for me at 19, I mean, I got into Halloween, you know, when there were only 2 Halloween, well, no, 3 Halloween movies, because there was Halloween 3 in 82. So when I got into Halloween in like 84, 85, and I'm like 6 or, you know, 5 or 6 years old, there were only 2 Halloween movies, 2 Michael Myers movies, 3 Halloween movies. And so I was into it for a long time. And so by the time I get to H2O, I'm just like, I'm overly critical. I'm like, you know, I don't really know, you know. But for a lot of people who are like, you know, 12, 13, 14, going to, oh, this is amazing. I totally get it. Totally understand it. And of course, you're right into that resurgence of the slasher subgenre and Scream. And I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And Urban Legend. And, you know, Halloween H2O. And all this crazy stuff, right? So I totally get it. But I am surprised for those reasons that the H2O score from the audience, especially on IMDb and on Rotten Tomatoes, is not higher. I expected to see an audience score in the 70s on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's only at what was it again? It was at, was it 49? It was at 49. The audience score on the audience score, not the critic score, the audience score, the critic score is higher. The critic score, folks, you probably already noticed this, but the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes for H2O is higher than the audience score. That surprises me. That surprises me, to be honest with you. But so that's really the only surprising one for me. I was expecting to see something higher there, more. Now, when we talk about best openings, right? Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween H2O. I do not like the Halloween H2O opening. Well, there's the hang on, it begins in Langdon, Illinois, and then you have, it's fine, but I've never really liked, I even in 1998 when I watched the movie in the theater and Jamie Lee Curtis begins screaming because she's dreaming, it's like this, it's like she took a big breath and it didn't feel genuine. I've never liked that scream. I've never been a big fan of H2O in general, as you know, so I'm not really a big fan of the opening. The opening of Halloween 4 is okay in terms of the title sequence, right? I mean, it's got all the fall atmosphere and things like that. Although I think people really, I think it's good. It's good. I'm not going to take anything away from it, but I think people, praise it maybe a little too much. I don't think maybe the opening of Halloween 4, dare I say, this might be a hot take, a little slightly overrated. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that, people lose their minds over the opening of Halloween 4. When you watch it, you go, well, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's fall and so, it's fine. The opening of Halloween 2, I mean, I don't know. What would you pick? If you had to pick between the three, I like the fact that the opening of Halloween 2 obviously is a direct continuation of the events of Halloween. So there's that nice canonical connection there. I think that's pretty cool. I really like that, obviously. And I do like the opening of Halloween 4. Do not misunderstand me. It's that people sometimes just lose their minds. And I think, they get orgasmic over it is what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't think there's anything to get orgasmic over, but whatever. But I do like it. I like the fall and the different shots and the soundscape. The swings. It's great. I do not misunderstand. It's great. So yeah, maybe between all the, might go Halloween 2 though for nostalgic reasons. The ending, I mean, which way, here's the tough one. This is the tough one because this is the ending. Do you want the or do you want the happy ending? Do you want the dystopian ending? Or do you, like the full circle dystopian ending? Or do you want the revenge ending? I bet a lot of you are going to say, oh, Laurie Strode, revenge ending, which has got the axe. My God! And it's like, yeah, okay, I get that. I get it. I understand it. I get it. For me, if I had to pick, because I'm dark, I might go with the ending of Halloween 4. But you ask me again tomorrow and I might be at Halloween 2. But of course, as you guys know, the Loomis trilogy is how I usually watch the Halloween movies. I don't usually watch anything past 4 ever. I'll be honest. And so you can watch Halloween and you get the original intention. You can watch Halloween 1 and 2, and then you get sort of the quote unquote happy ending where Michael dies and Laurie goes on to the next town and presumably she meets her parents and, she looks miserable in the back of the ambulance, but that's just because she's been through hell. She's likely to go on and have, a happy life. So there's the quote unquote happy ending, even though it doesn't really kind of feel happy. And then there's the dystopian full circle ending, which is the end of Halloween 4, which is full circle. And then it cuts to black. It's just the soundscape and the credits. If they had never made another Halloween movie, that's the way to do it right there. It's full circle. And Loomis, I've talked about this before ad nauseum. Love it. So I think I'm going to go with that one right now. The ending of Halloween 4. Yes. The ending of Halloween 4, I think, is going to win out on that, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going to win out on that. What else? Music, soundtrack. Ooh, this is another tough one. I think I'm going to, you know what? Classic Halloween, John Carpenter, but John Carpenter and Alan Howarth in Halloween 2, man, there's something about that Do you want to know what it is? Is because they never went back to it. Well, and until you get to the David Gordon Green trilogy, but even the David Gordon Green trilogy, unless I'm misremembering, I don't recall the Halloween theme. There was a lot of synth. There was a lot of synth in the David Gordon Green trilogy, 100%. And there's, every soundtrack, if there's one thing we can all agree, or if there's two things we can all agree on, at the very least, even if you despise the David Gordon Green trilogy, if there's two things I think most of us Halloween fans can agree on, it is they finally got the mask right, no matter what installment, 18 kills or ends. The mask is fantastic, and that the soundtrack is fire. The soundtrack is fire. Like, no matter what movie, the soundtrack is great. Like, they knocked out of the park. Whether you like the story, the soundtrack's great. And there's a lot of synth in there for sure. Love it, love it, love it. But I don't recall there ever being a synth version of the Halloween theme. There might be some synth accompaniment. There might be some like add-ons, but when you listen to the theme in Halloween 2, it is so distinct. It is the most distinct version of the Halloween theme in any of the movies, period. When you hear that theme, you're just like, I know instantly what this is from. It is so unique. It's so different. We've never heard it again. We've never even heard a variation of it again in any of the Halloween movies, ever. They never went back to that. Halloween 3's got a great score as well. But they never went back to that. So, you know what? I mean, I might, at this moment right now, I might go Halloween 2. There's some fucking fire tracks in that movie it's so 80s. It's great. Like, it's so unique. It's so different. I really like it. So at this moment, I might go Halloween 2. But then again, I mean, Halloween 1, the original, the OG, just the piano. Oh, man. Ding, ding, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, you know what, but for right now, for the purposes of being decisive, you got to pick one. I'm going Halloween 2, because it's just that thing when he's out there lying, on the lawn, he sees the blood on his hands and that's what's going on out here. Call the sheriff, call the police, tell him I shot him, tell him he's still on the loose. Is this some kind of practical joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. Of course, in the trailer, it's, I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. But then they obviously ADR'd Tommy Lee Wallace. I'm pretty sure that's Tommy Lee Wallace's voice, because they probably heard that guy and was like, he sounds a little bit like a dick. Actually, you know what? That's how, really, at the end of the day, I think Tommy Lee Wallace as the neighbor sounds too nice. What? Hey, that's what's going on out here. I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. And then, of course, as soon as he says that, it's like, oh, what is this? It is fire. It's fire, folks. Loomis running down the sidewalk. It's absolute fire. So I got to go with the Halloween 2 soundtrack on that one. Folks, if you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on what is your favorite and why. The battle of the fan favorites. Halloween 2, 1981. Halloween 4, 1988. Halloween H20, 1998. AKA Halloween 7, even though it's not related to 6, whatever. Let me know your thoughts, folks. Let's check out the poll. Which one is your favorite? Again, this surprises me. It really does. It really does, because I don't know, maybe just maybe there's not a lot of H2O fans here, but of course, this is to pick which one you like between these three. So that doesn't mean that the 56% that picked this one also don't like H2O, whatever it is. So, I have to keep that in mind as well. But I thought it would be closer. I'll be honest with you. I actually thought 4 would be I thought 4 would be first, followed by H2O. And then I'll be honest with you, I thought Halloween 2 would be last. But that's not the case. 170 of you have voted, and Halloween 2, 1981, 56% of you, the majority of you, are saying that Halloween 2 is your favorite between these three, of course. Halloween 4 is at 34%. And then Halloween H20 is way behind at 10%. 10%. Halloween 2, it just went up to 55%. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Let's see what you were all saying, folks. Let's start this discussion. New Nightmare, Nightly Gaimo, what's going on, buddy? Sends in a very generous chat, super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Nightly. Says, hey, Dave, been going through a rough patch. I hope you feel better, buddy. Hope you feel better. Stay strong. Keep your writing. Keep writing. Keep, the positive vibes going. But I'm thinking about you, man. Just wanted to say I've been watching a fair amount of your past streams from the shadows, and it's helped pass the time quite a bit. Amazing. Hope you're doing well, man. Also, H4 Supremacy. Amazing. Thank you, Nightly, and best wishes to you. I hope you feel better soon. Splash. $2 says Halloween 4 is my favorite, then Halloween 5. All right. I love it. I love it. Not me, but hey, all the power to you. Lord Kev sends in $1.99, says H2O is classic. H4 and H2O are hot. H2 is classic. H4 and H2O are hot poop. Love you, Dave. I wouldn't say they're hot poop. Of course, it depends on what we're measuring it against, right? I mean, it depends if we're, I personally wouldn't say they're hot poop. I would say that Resurrection is hot poop, and Halloween 5 is hot poop, and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is hot poop. They're steaming piles of poop. I would say, I wouldn't even say that H2O is hot poop. I would say that maybe H2O is a smelly diaper, or maybe you're sitting in a room and you have your baby in your lap and you realize that the baby's crapped the diaper and you're like, yeah, I can smell it. The baby needs changing. It's time to go change it. Like maybe that's a little bit of H2O. I just need to change the diaper. It's not a mess. It's not all over the place. It's not an adult that's crapped their pants. It's just, I didn't shit my pants. I wasn't running home from school because I'd take a big shit and then, crap my pants and then I had a log in my shorts and I couldn't. It's not that. It is just a dirty diaper. I mean, maybe that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And Halloween 4, I disagree. I think Halloween 4 is one of the better. I actually think Halloween 4 is the best sequel in the original run. So this is before Rob Zombie's remake in 7. Well, you go back to the original run through 4 and 5 and 6 and then H2O and Resurrection, the first 8 films. I think it's the best sequel besides Halloween 2, 1981. And I don't think it's close. And I don't think Halloween 4 is a great sequel. It's amazing. Oh, it's one of the best. I don't think it doesn't knock my socks off, but it's grown on me over the years even more so. I've always liked it. I've always appreciated it. Now that could also be because, its follow-up was a total disaster. And Halloween 6 is a total disaster. Not quite the disaster of 5, but it's still a disaster. I mean, you got incest and Michael walking off into the shadows in a, trench coat and fedora. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous if you watch the producer's cut. But even if you don't, it's just the whole thing. I don't give a frog's fat ass which cut you watch. It's just awful. So Halloween 4 probably benefits very much so from having 2 direct, pretty shitty sequels, right? So let's be honest here. But I do like 4 a lot. I've always liked 4, and I always thought it would have been a great ending to the whole thing, the entire franchise. And then, not that you had a crystal ball and you knew that you would be doing legacy sequels in 30 years, but imagine if they had never made another one. They never made another one. And then the legacy sequel thing caught on in around 14, 15, 16, and then all of a sudden they want to do a legacy sequel to Halloween. And then they bring back Danielle Harris and Rachel Carruthers, and Ellie, the Cornell. Could you imagine that? Oh, can't do it now. Let me see here. Matt Matthew Farisi, what's going on, buddy? $9.99, thank you. Says, among the other issues, H2O tries to emulate the slow burn approach of 78, but without any tension or atmosphere. It's a boring Hallmark Halloween. Also, get your own music score. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They did use some of the Scream music in Halloween H2O. I don't know why that was, but like what the reason for that was. Yeah, I just think, look, if you have followed me for any length of time, you know that I like to go to the extreme to be, and it's just to be theatrical and be satirical and have fun. I don't think Halloween H2O is a piece of crap. Now, maybe you think it's a piece of crap, but that also could be because maybe you're younger than me and you've grown up through the era of movies where everything is either a 10 out of 10 or it's shit. And if I say, you know what, I give that film a 7 out of 10, which is a great score. It's a great score. A 7 out of 10 is a really great score. But there are people in this world that think a 7 out of 10 is like giving a movie a 1 out of 10. It's like, it's not even close. What the hell are you talking about? And so, I don't think H2O is a piece of crap, but to your point, it's very dated. It's very much a product of its time in the sense of, the choices they made. It's very, Dawson's Creek, Scream, warm, a lot of tungsten, balanced lighting. It's set in California. It's very, much a product of its time. And so I don't particularly, and of course the Mask debacle, and I'm not a big fan of Chris Duran's portrayal. I have nothing against Chris Duran. I don't have anything personal against him. I'm just not a big fan of his portrayal, the whole Mask, the score. And you're right. It lacks any real atmosphere. It lacks any real suspense, really. There's moments of it. Like you can find moments in redeeming, qualities from most films, but it doesn't, it just doesn't, it's never resonated with me in the ways that it's resonated with others. And I think what H2O did, if I'm going to compliment it, I think what H2O actually did very well, and one of the reasons why so many fans do like it, one of the reasons, and I'm not saying it's the only reason, but one of the reasons is it is very much a product of what it was supposed to be at that perfect time in the 90s, that fun teenage popcorn, archetypal horror, almost comedy. Do you know what I mean? Like, not that H2O is a comedy, but light, horror light, right? Like it was that very much kind of fun Scream kind of thing. And that's what H2O was. And I'm coming from the early 80s where I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is not Halloween. This is not, I don't want fun Halloween. I want scary Halloween. I don't want fun. I don't want, whimsical. What are we doing here? So, I've never been able to warm up to it. Again, I don't think it's a disaster. I just think it's a very much a product of its time and a product of its style. Very much a product of its style, which I don't think is the correct style for what you've established, earlier. Like it doesn't fit continuity-wise. Like in terms of tone and style, it doesn't quite fit canonically. Do you know what I mean? It's not a terrible movie. It's just the tone doesn't quite fit canonically. And so it feels a little more, Scream than Halloween, right? I mean, so like I said, if you're somebody that grew up with it, and it was your first Halloween movie and you were into Scream, of course it's going to resonate with you on a different level. But for me, I was nearly 20 years old when I first saw it. And so I was able to be like, yeah, this is like, it's, I didn't hate, it wasn't boring. I mean, but all the masks and the way he looks and seeing his eyes and, and the setting and the fun Scream kind of feel to not the Halloween 5 cops level, but there's a bounciness to it. There's a bounciness to the horror, and I'm just like, yeah, this is not, it's not for me. Like, I don't think it was rated PG-13, but you probably could have rated it PG-13. Do you know what I mean? I've seen a lot more visceral, scarier PG-13 horror movies than the probably rated R Halloween H2O. Anyway. Anyway, let me see here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. We got some member chats that have come in here. Mendel Goodman. Thank you, Mendel. Says Halloween 2, 33% critic score. Are critic scores always so off? Why is that? Well, because that's how people, because you have to remember that people are, that's how people feel. And they're likely comparing it to the original. And Halloween 2 does pale in comparison to the original film. And so, I don't think it's nearly as like the filmmaking acumen and the style and the presentation. I don't think it's nearly as crafted as that first film. But I think out of all the other films, it is most like the original. I think it should be higher than that. But if the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes was like 60 or 65, I'd be like, yeah, sounds about right. Of what you might want to, expect. Simon Mills, thank you, Simon, says, funny thing, I have good memories from H2, H4, and H2O when I watched them at that time. If I'm being honest, though, H2 wins. It's the most like 78 one and gave us the better ending. Yeah, I agree. It gives you that. I mean, it also introduces the brother-sister story arc. So there's that, right? And that's kind of you don't want to, there's that kind of thing. But it does have an ending. And Michael is burning, and he's burning, and that's it. And then you get to Halloween 4, and he hardly has a scratch on him. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? Cody Snyder, what's going on, Cody? Says, looking forward to the return of a couple of guys and some nonsense, whenever that should be. Yes, that's right. Yeah, Tony and I will be talking towards the end of the month. We're hoping to make a comeback in March. $5 from Howard D says, I remember watching H2O with my friends and being genuinely perplexed as to how there was no connection to 4 to 6. Did you experience this as well? No, I did not. Now, Howard D, I don't know how old you are, but I knew going into it that it would not be, and the original idea was to connect it to 4 to 6 loosely. Like they would mention Jamie or something like that. They were going to have something in H2O that makes you go, oh, like there would be some sort of acknowledgement of those set of films, like something like Jamie Lloyd or, something that would make you realize that those films were canon. But they decided to really sort of axe that and stray away from that. And then, of course, have the wonderful, absolutely convincing line of, they never found his body. And it's like, oh, right, they never found his body. Well, that makes sense. I mean, what the hell was he doing? What the hell was he doing for 20 years? How was he eating? Where was he shitting? Was he a Walmart greeter? I mean, like what was, I don't know. That's okay. That's not the worst part of the movie. They never found his body. They never But didn't he die in the fire? They never found his body. Just use that. You should just use that for everything now. Just use it for anything. Anything that doesn't make any, well, they never found his body. Even if there is no body, just say it to your friends. Well, they never found his body. What? Bob, there's no body. They never found it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. No, I knew going in, Howard, that it was a sequel to Halloween 2. I knew that going in. That was, you could read about that in Fangoria, and it was probably mentioned on Entertainment Tonight or something or whatever. Yeah, for sure. Amadusius sends in $5. Thank you, Amadusius, and says, being an H4 stan, I hate that it's considered a part of the Thorn trilogy. I could not agree more. The Thorn did not make its way in until Halloween 5. Obviously, with the tattoo on Don Shanks's wrist, seeing the thorn symbol, in the house. I agree. I understand why, of course, they call it the Thorn trilogy. But I've never been it's because I'm not a fan of 5 or 6. So you can watch 4. Like, to me, and I'm being honest, I've talked about this on social media. I think I did a video on this. To me, obviously, I'm a Halloween purist at the end of the day. That doesn't mean that I don't like some of the sequels or can't find enjoyment and have some fun with, the franchise. Of course, I'm not a complete prude. But at the end of the day, of course, that first movie is really, really where it begins and ends for me. However, like I said, there's the Halloween 2 ending and there's the Halloween 4 ending. And I think the ending of Halloween 4 really is a great ending to the series, to the story, because it brings it full circle. It only reinforces what Dr. Loomis has been trying to say this whole time, which is evil never, it doesn't necessarily say it verbatim, but that evil doesn't die, right? And to see Jamie Lloyd standing at the top of the stairs with a pair of scissors in her hands, having just murdered her foster mom, and yes, murdered her, because we don't find out that her foster mom survived until Halloween 5. So if you scrap Halloween 5, we're just left to presume that she killed her. And I think that was the idea. And why they didn't go ahead and just have that part of the story, I don't know, unless that would have complicated the plot more and she would have been put into juvie and I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, she apparently survived if you watch Halloween 5. But if you don't watch 5 and you just end it with 4, that's where it ends. And it's such a great full circle moment, standing at the top of the stairs. Like it's paralleling the opening prologue, really, of Halloween. It's for all intents and purposes, it's a prologue, right? You know what I mean? That first moment when Michael taking off the mask and there he is with this, just killing his sister. It's great. It's a great full circle moment, and just seeing the anguish and the pain and the fear in Dr. Loomis's screaming in his eyes and his face is just tremendous. It's absolutely fantastic. And so I think it's a great full circle moment. If you'd never made another one, speaking out, coming at it from the perspective purely from a narrative standpoint, right? Not a show business standpoint, but a storytelling narrative, it's fantastic. And Michael would be presumed to be dead, and then imagine doing a legacy sequel to that film so many years later, and there was never a 5 or a 6 or an H20 or a Resurrection or a Rob Zombie 1 or 2 or a David Gordon Green trilogy. They never existed. What if in 2018 it wasn't David Gordon? Well, maybe he was the director. I don't know. But the story wasn't that. What we got, the story was the return of Jamie Lloyd, where she is in her mid-40s as a middle-aged woman. How did those events, like where is she now? Was she locked up? What happened to Dr. Loomis? What happened after that moment? That would be really cool. That'd be really cool. And no, they're not going to do that now. Let me see here. Logan Reynolds sends in $1.99, says, how would you rank H2O if you only had the TV version? If I only had the TV version, I think I'd probably rank it about the same. There's some things in the TV version that make no sense, some bad edits, some bad cuts, but I would probably rank it about the same. I mean, it doesn't totally ruin the film or anything like that. Lord Kev, $4.99. I was thinking 5 and not 4. My bad. I agree with your assessments. Damn, memory isn't what it once was. Smelly diaper, it is. Cheers. No problem, Lord Kev. No problem. Jordan, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Jordan Christie sends in $4.99, says, H4 is my favorite sequel in the series. I believe if they would have gotten the mask right in the movie, it would have been better received. Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it would have been better received. It's funny because I don't think the Halloween 4 mask is good. And I've said this many times as well. I still don't think it's good. But for whatever reason, the Halloween 4 mask has grown on me. I don't think it's good, but it's grown on me. Because there are moments where it is a creepy looking mask. If you just take it for what it is at face value, it's creepy. There's some moments where it's creepy, like the dream sequence when we're first introduced to it, really. When he sits up on, the other side of Jamie's bed and does the turn, and then she opens the door and he's right there and he goes like this, and the lighting is great. It's great. It looks creepy. It's a creepy dream sequence. Seeing her parents come flying out of the bedroom in slow motion. There's moments where it looks absolutely atrocious as well. But it's grown on me. I will say this. This is what I will say about the Halloween 4 mask. And this is interesting. Taking the David Gordon Green trilogy out of the equation, okay? Because it's not fair. The mask that they did for those 3 movies, I mean, it's incredible. It's the best mask we've had since the original. So take those 3 movies out. For me, the Halloween 4 mask has grown on me the most between the 4 mask, the 5 mask, the 6 mask, the H2O mask, the Resurrection mask, and the Rob Zombie masks. The Halloween 4 mask, between all those masks and the different variations of the H2O mask, has grown on me the most. It's improved the most in my liking of it. And so I think that's, it's weird, but it's true. I have to be honest with you. It's not a great mask at all, but it's grown the most, relatively speaking. Brandon Collins, one of our great moderators, Brandon Collins, sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Brandon. Says, in an early draft of H2O, Molly gives a book report in Mrs. Tate's class about the Haddonfield murders. That's when Carrie Laurie finds out Jamie died. Ah, there it is. There it is. Okay. Yeah, I knew there was something. There was some sort of connection that they were initially going to do to make those films canon. But I'm glad they didn't, because because then it doesn't, because I mean they would have to dive into Thorn, and it's just it's a disaster. I'm glad they didn't do that. Lee the Machine Bowers, ladies and gentlemen. Lee the Machine Bowers sends in a member chat. Thank you, Lee. And says, one thing that puzzles me about H2O, there's no burns on Michael's hands. And he has his eyes after Laurie took him out on Halloween 2. And where Brackett is still searching for his underwear. Yeah, that's always, I mean, when I saw H2O in the movie theater back in 1998, I immediately thought that, because I'm paying attention to those things, right? If you were very young at that time, you probably didn't realize it, but when you're, nearly 20 and you're watching the movie, yeah, and where I noticed it immediately is when Chris Duran, it's in the beginning, prologue for all intents and purposes, Langdon, Illinois, when Chris Duran, Michael Myers, walks through the kitchen chasing what's her face there? The nurse. Why am I blanking on her name? Nancy Stevens. Marion Chambers. And he walks through the kitchen and he reaches over and he picks up that butcher knife and takes it out of the knife stand or knife holder, right? I remember it. I remember the shot clear as day. And I remember sitting in the movie theater and seeing that hand reach in because they have light coming in from the window, right? He picks it up. And I remember thinking, where the hell did all his burns go? He's got like literally no burns. And I remember thinking in the theater, his eyes are like wide open. And I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Because this is even though 4, 5, and 6 are not there, Halloween 2 is canon. Halloween 2 is canon. And so it doesn't make any sense to me. And I never liked it. It's lazy. And it's because, like, all you had to do is just not show his eyes. Just don't show his eyes. That's it. We don't have to see any damage to his eyes. Just don't show his eyes. Don't like it. Never. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't get any feels. It doesn't do anything. No. But that's me. I think it would have been far better if it was just a black void. Not because, yes, it's to reinforce the boogeyman and sort of the mystique, but it also is better for, it's canonically connected. It's for continuity. And I know we've seen his eyes before. I know that. I'm not, I know that in Halloween 2, when he, leaps up from behind the couch and he stabs the neighbor, you see his eyes. And I understand you see a little bit of his eyes in the mask when he puts, Pamela Shoop into the therapeutic hot tub. And I get that. But there's something about there's something about those shots that I would not have made the same creative choice, but there's something about those shots, it doesn't bother me as much. It could be because of the lighting and the focus. But you know, when Michael gets like kicked in the balls and he does, like, it's just the eye, it could be the size of the eye holes. It could be the size of the eye holes. When we're seeing the lower cheek or the upper cheek here, right below the lid, and they're so, like, the eye holes are so big that we're almost seeing the eyebrows. That's when I'm like, it's too, I think they're just too wide. They're too big. And I think on the Halloween 2 mask, which of course is the original mask, the eye holes are not, they're almond shaped. And so although we get a little bit of a, you know, catch light on the eyes when he looks down at Pamela Shoop before he, you know, throws her into the tub, there's still mystery behind it. There's still a mystique behind it because the eye holes are not big. They're almond shaped like eyes. And so they kind of follow the lines of the eye shape. So we're not seeing like the cheek here, right? You know, we're not seeing here. We're not seeing, you know, over here. We're not, it still adds a little bit of that mystery there. And I think that's why it ultimately works for me. Whereas when you get you get to H2O, I mean, his eye holes are so big, you could just, you know, take, you know, one look at him and go, Uncle Bob? Is that you? Like, I mean, they're so big, you could recognize the person under the mask. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, that's how I feel about it. But that's me. That's me. 227 of you have voted. 59% say Halloween 2, 1981. 33% say Halloween 4. And 8% say H2O. This is shocking to me. Maybe the H2O fans are just a loud minority. I don't know. Shocking to me. All right. Have I missed any super chats? Any member chats? We got a member chat here from Magic Marker. Says, watched Halloween 78 and Halloween 2 back to back when I was 10 years old. First time seeing each, and I've loved them ever since. The excellence of 78, enhances my enjoyment of the 81 film. Good to know. Awesome. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. That's really cool. Very cool indeed. Let me see here. Okay, let me just want to make sure. Got the member chats. Want to make sure I got all the super chats. Just scrolling back here. Yes, it does look like I have. Okay, just want to make sure. I'm just making sure, ladies and gentlemen. Just making sure. Let me see. That's a very good point, Brandon. I like what you say here. He says his eyes are reflecting the light in those shots as well. The lighting plays into it. The H2O mask has eye holes that are too big, but also plays like a TV movie. Yeah, there's a well, and that's part of the lighting, right? It's not as crafted. You know, the lighting in H2O isn't as they haven't crafted the lighting. There isn't as much of there isn't a style. You know, it's a little more pedestrian, a little more Scream, you know. And so, yeah, when we see his mask and we see his eyes, you know, there's just not a lot of craft that goes into the presentation of it. And that takes away from it for me. You know, yeah, I totally get that. Jay Edwards says, well, there aren't any H2O fans left after Jamie Lee Curtis came out and called the movie crap. That's like a final nail in the coffin. Well, she's called a lot of them. Well, look, if that's it, then we should just really not like any of the movies then. No, but that shouldn't look, that should never sway. That should never sway anybody's love of a movie. If Jamie Lee Curtis comes out and calls Halloween H2O crap, that should never sway your love of it. Ever. You know, I mean, look, Nick Castle could come out and say that he hated playing Michael Myers. He doesn't say that. I'm just saying he could say that. And he thought his portrayal of Michael Myers was garbage. And that would not change my mind in thinking he's still the best Michael Myers out there. You know, or the best one that's ever done it. And so, yeah, I don't think that's it. Personally, respectfully, I disagree. I know that Jamie Lee Curtis is very outspoken online, and I know that Jamie Lee Curtis is yeah, she's very outspoken about a number of hot button issues. And that may make you not like Jamie Lee Curtis. But I don't think it's going to turn Halloween. I don't think it's going to turn their love. If you really love Halloween, like really love Halloween, excuse me. Well, yeah, Halloween in general, but also if you really love Halloween H20, it's not going to change your mind. Like you're not going to say, oh, so Jamie Lee Curtis thinks it's crap, so I'm going to hate Halloween H20. I mean, have a backbone, man. You know, too many people, too many people care about other, what other people, who cares what Jamie Lee Curtis thinks? And Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't like horror movies. I mean, if you want to take it one step further, Jamie Lee Curtis has said very clearly many times she fucking hates horror movies. She hates them. Now, I don't think she means that she hates those who love horror movies. She just means that, like, she's not like, yeah, I'll star in them, of course, because it's a job, it's a role, it's acting, you're on set. It's a very different experience when you know how the sausage is made. I think she doesn't like horror movies because, there's a lot that don't like horror because they scare me, or, I'd rather, do this or that, or I'd rather watch a rom-com, or, whatever the case is. And she spent a lot of her career in horror movies. Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H20, Halloween Resurrection, Halloween 18, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, Prom Night, Terror Train, The Fog. I mean, she's done a lot of horror movies. And so, yeah, I don't think that should skew your love of a movie. I don't care what anybody says, about a movie, but I get what you're saying. Let me see here. Jacob Corntho says H2O is flat looking. It also has a warm color palette. Just doesn't feel like a horror film. Rom-com cinematography, not scary. Yeah, for the most part, that's true. Well, I mean, they shot it in California, but yeah, it does. It has a very warm tungsten vibe to it. And I think H2O would have served, like, I think what people, and again, obviously, it's my opinion, but, the setting of Halloween is very much a part of Halloween. It's a character in the film, the setting, the mood, the atmosphere. I don't just say those things, to hear myself talk, or say those things as like platitudes or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm not just spewing a bunch of, just cliches and, I mean, it really is when you watch that first movie, because you have to remember, and again, I know I go back to the first movie, but what Irwin Yablans wanted was an old school Hitchcockian type of movie. That's a very specific style of film, right? So when we talk about a Hitchcock type of horror suspense thriller, stylistically, and how you craft a movie like that has a very specific style to it. It's like Nosferatu, right? I don't mean they're like the same kind of style. I just mean like what Robert Eggers has done when he looks at a film like Nosferatu and the story, it's a very specific voice, a very specific style to craft a movie like that. It's not just a pedestrian horror film. It's and some filmmakers will craft movies over than others. Some filmmakers are more auteurs and there's degrees of auteurs, right? I mean, I'm not saying everybody is Nolan. I'm just saying that some filmmakers look at a script, and whether it's for budgetary reasons, creative reasons, whatever the case is, they want to shoot creative differences, too many chefs in the kitchen, whatever it is, they choose to shoot something that is, a little more, just a little more pedestrian. I'm the kind of filmmaker, I am more like a Robert Eggers. I'm not saying I'm Robert Eggers, because you have to say that now. You have to preface it, because there's going to be somebody out there that goes, did they just say he's Robert Eggers? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if I'm comparing my style and the kind of horror movies I want to make, and what really jazzes me and gets me excited, and the kind of director I am on set, and the kind of things that I get passionate about, and the kind of voice that I want my films to have, right? When I think of me as a filmmaker and in that kind of way, and obviously I just have the 2 Billy films to showcase that at the moment, but you look at those 2 films and you know, think about its style, think about its cinematography, think about its voice, think about how we crafted the films, right? And so that's the kind of director I am. So, you know, the next horror movie I do, I want to take my time. I want to craft these shots. I want to work with my DP. I want to, you know, I mean, you can't take forever because you're working on a budget, you have a schedule, and you know, you do have to get shit done. But I'm not just do this and set that up and just go, you know, where some people are like that, right? And some people like to get through things. They don't, you know, they think about it a little bit, but it's just like, yeah, you know, this will do. Some people are like that. But that's not me. It's all about crafting that mood and that shot. That's the kind of filmmaker I am. That's the kind of filmmaker that Bruce is as well, which is why we work so well together as a directing duo. And so, yeah, that's I appreciate films that are so well crafted, like Nosferatu or like The Ritual or Longlegs. You know, films that you can tell that they are crafting these shots. They're crafting the lighting. You know, they're taking their time with this. They're setting a tone. They're setting a mood. They're making the environment and the setting part of a character in the film. You know what I mean? I love when the setting and the environment, when you can feel that palpable mood and atmosphere. Like I always say, when there's nothing, it could just be 2 people talking in a room, right? 2 people talking in a room. But you can still feel the mood. Like when we did that scene with Lynn and Glenn Michael Grant in It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2, when they're in the police station, right? I remember specifically saying to Bruce, now we can have all the lights on, right? We can have all the lights on. It's during the day, have the fluorescent lights on. You know, it's a police station. Why not, right? Let's just have all the lights on. Be a lot easier. No, why would we do that? Let's set a tone. Let's set the mood. She comes in. There's nobody there. There's a Christmas tree in the corner. It's only the Christmas tree lights. There's like one lamp off in the corner, right? We see her silhouette coming towards the camera. She knocks on the door. You know, Detective Henny's office is only lit by, you know, a desk lamp, a warm desk lamp. There's a little, you know, tabletop tree in the background with those little, you know, Christmas lights, and it sets a tone. So now, you know, when you watch that scene, it's moody, it's atmospheric, it's more intimate. It feels more intimate, right? Because of the tone and the feel and the vibe, and you know, and that takes time to craft shot. And that's just one small, very simple example. But to craft shots and to craft your lighting and to work with your DP and to really, it takes time. You have to know all this before you go to set, by the way. You don't figure this out when you get to set because time is money and you're wasting time. You have to, that's why you do a shot list and that's, you know, all that kind of jazz. But, you know, that's the kind of filmmaker I am. And so, I really appreciate, going back to Halloween, what John Carpenter was able to do. When you watch the original Halloween, obviously it's relative to its budget, but it's somebody, he's thinking about these shots, crafting these shots, thinking about the lighting, where he's going to put the camera, you know, what that means for this, what that means for that, and creating a tone, a style, an atmosphere, a mood. And that became part of the identity and the DNA of Halloween and Michael Myers. So when you remove that DNA and you remove that identity from a Halloween film, it's really noticeable. And you feel kind of naked. It doesn't mean the movie can't excel in other areas, you know, like music or a mask or, you know, a kill, you know, whatever. Sure. Okay, fine. But unfortunately, H2O didn't excel in any of those things. It didn't excel with the mood and the atmosphere and the tone and the crafting of the shots and the lighting. It didn't excel in that. That was gone. And it didn't excel in the mask area, and it didn't excel in the music area. So now it becomes really noticeable that it's not really feeling like it's connected to this series. Do you know what I mean? Now it has another identity completely. And I think that for me, like if it was firing, like if it had the soundtrack of the David Gordon Green trilogy, oh my God. Oh my God. If it had the mask of the David Gordon Green trilogy, oh my God. You know, then you can go, well, you know, maybe it's a little pedestrian in the terms of the filmmaking, but fuck, that mask is fantastic. Holy shit, the soundtrack is fire. You know what I mean? You know, because then you're excelling, you know, in other areas that are very Halloween. But unfortunately, H2O was just Scream. It wasn't, you know what I mean? So anyways, I don't mean to go on a long-winded rant about this, but you know, it's cool. It's cool. I get jazzed, like I get really excited about, you know, setting a tone, crafting the shots, because I want you, my audience, to feel it. I want you to feel the atmosphere. I want you to feel the tone. Even when it's just two people talking, right? Take It's Me, Billy, Chapter 1, when you have Emma and Sam on the porch. That it's during the daytime, but it's incredibly atmospheric, incredibly moody. There's a tone, there's a feeling there that was incredibly important to Bruce and I. The way we shot it, the atmosphere, the setting, the sound design. You know, I love movies, and that's what I really liked about Long Legs as well, is when you have a film that, you know, the ending of Long Legs was probably the weakest of the whole thing, but even when it's just two people sitting in a room talking, you feel the atmosphere, right? You feel the tone, you feel the mood, you feel creepy, and it's just two people sitting in a room talking. That's the kind of shit I really love. And that takes time. That takes time to craft. Anyway, now that I've lost 155,000 people from the chat, stick around, you might learn something. Follow the Spiders. Love it. Follow the Spiders. 1999. Love that name. Says H2 is such a great sequel to 78 in every way, but H4 is so beautiful. I love everything about H4. It's so special to me. They're my favorite sequels, and I can't put them against, and I can't put them against one another. How lucky are we to have both? H2. Yeah, look, Halloween 2 is like I said, I think is the best sequel in the franchise. I think it's most like the original. Obviously because it picks up from that time, or from the moment the original ends. I don't think it's as good as the original. I think it's significantly lower than the original, but I think it's still a really good film and a really good sequel. And part of the reason for that too is that it feels and looks so much like the original because the production value is not that much different. I mean, it's only 3 years apart. So the film stock and the style of acting and, you know, the way films were edited and shot and, you know, I mean, it looks and feels very much like it was because it's not that far removed from when they did the original. Do you know what I mean? So it feels most like the original for those reasons. But I agree with you. I think it's and H4 is, you know, it's great. How are we doing with the poll? Let's check out the poll now. 264 of you have voted. God, H2O is just getting creamed. H2O is getting creamed. 9% for H2O, 34% for Halloween 4, 58% for Halloween 2 from 1981. Amazing. Let me see here. Okay, I haven't missed any. I was going off on a big rambling thing there. Have I missed any super chats, member chats? No, I have not. Okay, I just want to make sure. I've not missed anything. Chester Franklin Jr. says, the ending of H2 I love a lot. The operating room part is great. It's time, Michael. The fire walk of Michael with the syringe he is holding. I know, and I might have been one of the first people to point that out. Of course, somebody will be like, oh, I've always noticed it. Okay, all right. Well, I have a platform and I said it. Let me see here. Yes, Michael carrying the syringe, Lori getting into the ambulance, then Mr. Sandman. It's great stuff. Rob Thidoff, what's going on, Rob? Says, Dave, I think if H4 was the last Halloween movie made, many, including myself, would believe H4 was the best sequel. I could totally see that. 100%. I could totally see that. Yeah, no, you're right. I could totally see a world and a scenario where that is the case. I could totally see that. I could totally see that. Jonathan Clancy says, I'll be kicked out of here for this opinion. No. But I have always loved the last third of H5. I know why everyone hates it, but no, you're not going to be kicked out. You're not going to be kicked out. No, nobody would kick you out of here for that. For what? For having an opinion? Having an opinion? No. I think it's great that you love it. I think it's great. I think so. Look, I've said many times, I rib on Halloween 5 or Halloween Resurrection or, H20, whatever it is, but it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. I mean, it's just fun. Me never mistaken my poking fun at some of the movies that I don't, particularly like as me saying I don't like those who like it. Right. That's very different. And I think people often I think there's a lot of people, whether it comes to, sports or movies or politics, well, maybe politics is a whole other thing, but certainly when it comes to sports and movies, especially, I think there's this sort of idea that if somebody, and look, I get it. It can be difficult to hear somebody making fun of or ribbing or poking fun at a movie that is very near and dear to your heart. It can be, especially if it's like your best friend, or somebody you like watching on YouTube or something, right? Totally understand. But always know it's never personal. I don't think me saying I think Halloween 5 is a piece of crap is not me saying I think everybody who likes Halloween 5 is a piece of crap. That's not what I'm saying at all. And anybody who says that is a piece of crap. We'll just say that. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, but I don't know. Am I going to sneeze? Maybe not. Maybe it'll pass. There we go. There it was. Woo! Mendel Goodman says, your message is officially deleted just for liking H5. Could you imagine? Let me see here. Scrolling back. Just scrolling back. Michael Poor, is that how you say it? Says, it doesn't bother me seeing Michael's eyes in Halloween 2 because he doesn't get shot until the end of 2. It doesn't bother me seeing them in the later sequels. H4 does a great job of hiding them. H4 does a great job of hiding them. H2, no, yeah, look, like I said earlier, I think one of my biggest issues with his eyes in H2O is the eye holes are just too big. And we're seeing more than just his eyes. We're seeing his upper cheek. We're almost seeing his eyebrows. Maybe we are seeing his eyebrows. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look, but it's very close. And so even though you see his eyes and it's fleeting, but you do see his eyes for a moment or two, the catch lights in his eyes in Halloween 2, he's still a mystery because the eye holes, that almond shape, you're not really seeing anything. Like you're basically seeing just his eyeballs, right? You're not necessarily seeing his, the structure around it. And so, and you see his eyes a lot in H2O. Like every time they have an opportunity to show you his eyes, they do it. And so I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan of it. Super chat comes in from Jonathan Clancy. He sends in €5. Thank you, Jonathan. Says, thanks for being nice, Dave. Well, of course. I would never do that. I don't know what YouTube channels you peruse, but if there's a YouTube channel out there that would kick somebody out for having a difference of opinion, it's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Especially one that's like that. It's just, you're just saying you like a movie that a lot of people don't like. Okay. That's great. I think it's great. Rebel Heart says, Halloween 2 has one of the best photos of Michael Myers. The photo taken behind him walking down the hall in the hospital, just showing his silhouette. H2 and H18 are the best sequels. H1 is number 1. Yeah, that is a good one. There's some great behind the scenes photos from both of those movies. But yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. I agree to that. I agree to that, ladies and germs. All right, one second here. Hang on a sec here. sure I'm doing this right. Hang on, I'm just looking something up. Okay. All right. Josh McKenna. Sorry, I'm just making sure that I had something worked up there. Josh McKenna, $1.99. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. One of our great supporters, of course, to It's Me Billy Chapter 2. Josh's face was also in It's Me Billy Chapter 2 on the missing persons poster. You don't know what death is. Apparently not. Apparently not. Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate that. Let me see here. What's the time? How much time do we have left? We still got a little bit of time. How are we doing with the poll? The poll, 278, still 58% say Halloween 2 from 81. 33% say Halloween 4 from 1988. And only 9% say Halloween H20. Shocking. It's fascinating. Fascinating stuff. Fall the Spider says, bruh, he missed my super chat. Did I miss your super chat? Let me go back and check. I didn't realize I did. I saw it. You sent in the H2 is such a great sequel to 78 in every way, but H4 is so beautiful. No, I got that one. They're my favorite sequels. I can't put them against each other. How lucky we are to have both. And I said, yeah, we are. We're very lucky to have both. And then I acknowledged it. I did. I acknowledge. I mean, you're making a statement there. It's not really a question. So, except for the end, of course, says like you have both, and I agree. Unless you sent in another one. Maybe you sent another one. Let me see here. Did you send another one? Did I miss one? My apologies if I missed one. I don't see it. No, that was the only one. It's the only one I can see anyway, unless you just recently sent in another one. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's good we have both. And that's kind of where like it stops for me. You know what I mean? Like I rarely watch Halloween 5 and I rarely watch Halloween 6 and I never watch Halloween H20 Resurrection really. Bobby Hall, Dave, would you have liked the DGG trilogy more if Myers wasn't in Ends and he died? No, I think that, well, it depends how they set it up. And he died from the mob breakdown and kills. When I first saw that scene, I thought Myers was dead and he wouldn't be in Ends. Well, maybe, maybe. I think it would have had to have been, I think that would have been very strange. I think to off Michael Myers in the middle of a 3, act film arc to then make a Halloween movie without Michael Myers. I don't know. I think I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think I have no issues with the Corey Cunningham story. I am not one of those people that think Halloween Ends is the worst in the franchise. I don't think Halloween Ends is the worst in the franchise, not by a long shot. I think Halloween 5 is worse. I think Halloween 6 is worse. I think Halloween Resurrection is worse. I think Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is worse. And when I say worse, that's my opinion. It's, we can dive into how we would measure that. But in terms of, I think Halloween Ends is the right story at the wrong time. And I think I have a video on my channel. If you want to know how I would have handled the transition from Kills to Ends and what I did with Halloween Ends, there is a video on my channel. Just YouTube Dave McRae Halloween Ends. You'll get a bunch of the reviews and what I would have done, all that kind of stuff. And I lay out to you what I would have done. And the Corey Cunningham story is a great one, but it's the wrong time for it. I think if they had played their cards right, they should have just landed the plane with Laurie and Michael. And I understand you'd be doing a similar thing, but if you listen to what I said you could do in my idea, it would not have been a retread. It would have been different, and you still would have, and it would have been, I think it would have been awesome to get Laurie is running down the street and there's a thunderstorm and lightning and like it's the whole fucking thing. And I think I think if they'd played their cards right, they should have done that and landed the plane and then taken the Corey Cunningham story and used that as the starting point for an anthology series. I think would have been interesting. Now, I know there's a lot of people that don't believe that the anthology series could work today. I disagree. The term anthology is in the zeitgeist now, especially when it comes to movies. We've had anthology films. We've had successful anthology films. I think you can prepare people more today. Yes, you're always going to get people going, fine. But generally speaking, I think you can prepare people more. People know what to expect. Look what they're doing with Crystal Lake, right? In a lot of ways. And I think if you had, now I know Jason's going to be in that. I'm just saying, they're doing a prequel thing and all that kind of stuff. Because the story is an interesting one. And you may have even been able to get Jamie Lee Curtis and Andy Matichak to reprise their roles for an anthology series. Do you risk it and make a movie? I don't know. But the Corey Cunningham story is an interesting one. You know, you don't need Michael Myers to tell that story. I absolutely, categorically disagree with those who say you needed Michael to tell that story. Well, yes, I guess because that's the way they wrote it. And if he wasn't in it, you would have Michael Myers on the page. And where's Michael Myers? Yeah, I get that. But you didn't need him to tell the Corey Cunningham story. And as I've often said, in my opinion, Halloween Ends was actually pretty good, ironically, until Michael Myers showed up. When Michael Myers showed up, the movie took a nosedive. And you don't want that. You want the movie to go up. And because the Corey Cunningham story was interesting. What a fascinating, interesting story. Just take it at face value, right? Michael's gone. He's dead. He's gone. I don't know. Let's say he's dead. And here you have this young, all-American, good-looking kid that's about to go off to college. This horrible accident happens to him. And because the town is still dealing with the residual effects and the repercussions of the return of Michael Myers, and they're dealing with all that, and there's this thing that happens, he pleads innocent. He really is innocent, but the town doesn't believe it because there's all this trauma in the town. And so you still feel Michael Myers' presence. You still feel his presence there. You would still feel him there, even though he's not literally there. You'd still feel him there. And you could see photos of him and news clippings and, whatever, right? You still feel it. And there's a trial, and Corey Cunningham is acquitted, but his life to go off to college is like ruined, and he doesn't know who he's going to be and what's going on. And he goes back to Haddonfield and he's bullied, and maybe not by the band, with their flutes, but he's bullied and he's, and Michael Myers is still a part of that. Like, cause why is he bullied? Like, what is the overall arcing theme? Why is this all happening? Well, it's all happening. Why is he bullied, right? Why is this town fucked up? Why are they bullying him? Why are they treating him like garbage? Why is all that happening? Because of Michael Myers. So the residual effects of Michael Myers, that residual effect is still there. It's still, even though you're not literally seeing him sit up and do a head turn, he's still there. He's still having that weight and effect. And that social commentary is terrific. That part of Halloween Ends is really good. It's just in the wrong movie. It's just, we're not there yet. We need to finish the Laurie story first before we jump to do this kind of thing, in my opinion. And so I would have saved that for either a fourth movie, which might have been difficult to sell people on a fourth movie, but you may have been able to sell them on a series. And you get Jamie Lee Curtis to come back. You get Andy Med, and then you can have Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie saying all the same things she said in the movie. I've seen those eyes before. Oh, they're just like Michael's. Like you can see, he's still there. He still has a stranglehold on this town, right? But you're watching this, ironically, what is so amazing is that the irony of all this is that they think that the more bullying they do, the more that they let this kid know that you're this and you're shit. The more the town feels that they are, and this is in Halloween Ends as well, but the more the town feels they are on their toes and fighting against evil, they're ironically not. They're treating an innocent guy like a piece of shit, and his trajectory psychologically and emotionally is going further and further and further into the gutter until eventually they turn him into the very thing they are trying to escape. And that's great writing. That's the epitome of irony, right? That's the definition of irony, you know. And so that's a great story. That's a great story, but not in the third act of a 3-act play. Like, what are we doing here? Had they introduced Corey Cunningham in Halloween 18 and set up that trajectory earlier, okay, maybe we might be onto something here. But to introduce that story in the third act is weird. And it's strange. And it speaks to me like they didn't have a great idea. They didn't want to do the same thing over again. They wanted to, they tried to subvert expectations and be a little cheeky and a little avant-garde. And it's just like, yeah, but you don't need, it's a fucking slasher movie, man. It's Halloween. This isn't the Shawshank Redemption. You know, this isn't the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's fucking Halloween. Like there's no need to do that now. Right? Like, that's a great idea. Like, if I was in the writer's room, I would have been like, that's a really good idea. I love this. Can we just put a sticky note on the whiteboard and just kind of like put it over there? Because that's really cool. That's really great. We might come back to that. That's cool, man. I like that. Let's come back to that. Okay, now let's focus on Laurie and Michael and how we're going to end it. Right? Like, that's kind of how I would have been. And you listen to my idea, like, again, I can't remember verbatim what I said, but I had, Corey was in it. He was in it. Corey Cunningham was in it. So was Cameron, Andy Matichek, Laurie, Thunderstorm. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. It was really cool. And so, yeah, I don't know why how I got off onto that tangent, but anyway, what else is new? But yeah, I think Halloween Ends, was a missed opportunity. And I think the Corey Cunningham story is one that is actually got I think it's got more meat on it than maybe they even realized. And it's unfortunate that we can't really explore that. How cool that would have been if they had saved that for a series. And then the film opens not in 2018, but in 2024, right? Or 5, you know, and the town's still reeling from this. And, you know, there's suicides and, you know, oh, I guess I can't say that. What am I supposed to say? Unaliving? Whatever. It's not like I'm making, you know, it's not like it's really going to hurt. I could understand if I was reeling in like, you know, 1 million views of video, I might be like, oh, maybe I'll choose my words carefully. It doesn't affect me. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. Anyway, I know a couple of super chats. Let me see here. Jonathan Clancy, €5. Oh no, I got that one. Yeah, okay, €5. Jonathan Clancy. Do you think we are at the point of Halloween being over, as in the characters are finished? Well, I mean, you know, yes. Do I think that? Listen, you know, you never say never. The 50th anniversary is coming up in 3 years. Who knows what they're going to do? Who knows what they're going to do between now and then? But would I like to think that the Halloween, you know, look, I still feel this way. I still feel this way. I'm okay with them never making anything ever Halloween again. Of course I'm going to be there. Of course I'm going to get excited. Of course I'm going to talk about it. Of course. But I just mean, if you ask me, like, you know, would you, no, I'm good, because I have the good movies, the bad movies, the ugly movies, the different timelines, the different, like, there's so much Halloween content. I don't need another Michael Myers movie. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that, I'm not saying that they can't make another one and make it great, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm so thankful they made this. Of course. That can happen, but it can also easily go the other way, and they could do it and fuck it up and it'd just be dog shit again. And so I'm okay. Like, I'm not pining for it. I don't, like, I'm good. Like, there's a lot of Michael Myers movies, a lot of content, a lot of masks, a great community, you know, conventions, t-shirts, hoodies, dolls, cosplaying, it's great. It's alive. It's well, it's thriving. I'm okay. But of course they will continue. Malika Akkad will continue to milk it until it's, until the nipple's dry, as best he can. And what sort of that means, I don't know. Do I think that that Jamie Lee Curtis is done and the connection to the original movie? Like, do I think they're going to do another sequel to the original movie, or like a sequel to Halloween Ends, or, with Michael Myers? No. I mean, he died in a meat grinder thing, whatever. No, I think that's all done. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is done. But who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? They'll probably just, who knows? If there's one thing we know coming out of Hollywood, they will go back to the well as many times as they can to just squeeze a little bit more milk out of that nip, who knows? Who knows? All right, let's see. The final results of our poll here, ladies and gentlemen, are: which one is your favorite between these three? And Halloween 2, 1981, comes out on top. 286 of you have voted. 286 of you have voted. 58% say Halloween 2, 33% say Halloween 4, and only 8% say Halloween H20. Amazing. Tom Hungarian, why is JLC talking about coming back again, though? I think she's... No. She wasn't talking about coming back. She just basically said never say never kind of thing. She didn't say she was coming back. She just said, you never know. I mean, who knows? It's Jamie Lee Curtis. But there's many ways one could come back. She could come back as a voice in a video game. She could come back as a producer. She could come back as a cheerleader from the sidelines. Yay! It doesn't mean she's coming back as Laurie Strode for Halloween Part 39. Although you never know. If money gets tight for Jamie, you never know. She might do it. Who knows? All right. I've got all the super chats. I believe I do. I just want to make sure. I believe I do. Do I? Any last ones at the buzzer? I don't think so. Sometimes there's ones that come in at the buzzer. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any. Let me go back over here. John Clancy. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me for this episode of McRae Live. I want to thank, of course, my great moderators for doing what you guys do. Thank you for the super chats and the member chats and the non-super and non-member chats. I really appreciate it. Listen, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on the fan favorites. Halloween 2, 1981, Halloween 4, 1988, Halloween H20, 1998. Let me know your thoughts. Which one is your favorite and why? Let me know your thoughts on anything I had to say here today as well. I would really like to know. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. Make sure you're following me on Instagram if you're not. I'd like to get my Instagram numbers up. They've been sitting at the same for a little while now. It'd be nice to get them up. All right, folks. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. And I will talk to you all very, very soon. That's going to do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.